What is your worst sexual experience? My current girlfriend rubbed some muscle cream on my legs after a bit of sport. She then started to go down on me, forgetting to wash her hands after the cream. I started to feel a little hot and cold sensation which ended up in scorching pain for about 30 minutes. We laugh about it today, but in the heat of the moment, it was the worst thing ever. Having sex with a friend, because we were both lonely and depressed. Sad, passionless experience that ruined the friendship. When I was 20, I had a long distance girlfriend, and when she was in town, we would really go at it. Yeah, no. Releasing a couple months of pent up sexual frustration in a couple days, I got into a weird position. And it was straining something in me. I just didn't know what. I'm about to switch. But then I noticed she was responding really well. So I said to myself, man, I'll just suck it up, and went for it for a while till she got hers. We both finished, and I thought all was good. She left. And a week later I noticed a bulge forming just above my dick. Fearing the worst, dick cancer or some such nonsense, I went and saw a doctor. Yep, got a hernia. Had to get surgery. TLDR. Great sex. Very expensive. 7/10. Hernias are such bullshit. I got a gym buddy who deadlifts around 350 pounds on the regular, has a strong core, and got a hernia from sneezing too hard while bent over tying his shoelaces. I don't want to believe, just because that is so horrible, and I deadlift and involuntarily I sneeze like a monster. It's not mine, but I had a boyfriend when I was 19, and they had a very small apartment. His mom was sleeping in the middle room, and you had to go through that to get to his room. One night I slept over, and I really needed to pee around 5 AM. I got up, opened the door, went in and saw his mom ducking with a dude. I panicked and instead going back to my BFS room, I ran into the bathroom. IDK how long I was there for, but I remember them saying she's never gonna come out. I eventually did. Apologized like 500 times, and even though it was 11 years ago, I'm still embarrassed, and I still have certain images in my head. I remember them saying she's never gonna come out. I eventually did. Silly me. I saw a completely different scenario play out in my head. He stops mid-thrust and says, I know this is a bad time to say this, but I think we should just be friends. My ex once kicked me in the stomach when she had an orgasm. I was on top, so I fell to the floor and split my head open. Had to stay in hospital overnight. Edit. Somehow this seems to be interesting. So I try to answer some questions. I had to go to the hospital because I was a bit lightheaded. There was some blood, but not in alarming amounts. This happened about 10 years ago, and yes, she was very flexible. No, I'm not from US. Hence my poor English. This ain't the reason we broke up. It was all the shit she is made of. I told to the hospital staff that I just fell and only banged my head. I think they didn't believe me. Yes, it was the kind of sex that made you hold on to your dear life. Having sex with a girl at a house party who bled over both of us. But because it was dark, neither of us realized. We proceeded to walk into a house party full of people with blood over our clothes and hands. Who've been there? She is really wet. She must be super into me. Thankfully it wasn't at a house party and only sheets had to be thrown out. That must have been hyper embarrassing for both of you. Friend of mine who used to be a real alcoholic told me this happened to a friend. Apostrophe. Picked up a girl in a bar while barely conscious. Get home. And can't remember a thing after that. Wakes up in the morning. Hungover. Head pounding like hell. Looks over. And she's ugly as sin. So ugly. He's tempted to chew his arm off to get away from her without waking her. Akakoyo duck. Anyway, he finally slides arm out from under her. Stumbles to the bathroom cause he's got a pee so bad. Mumbling to himself over and over, please. God, tell me I didn't duck her. She's so ugly. Tell me I didn't. He gets to the toilet. As he's emptying his full bladder, looks in the mirror. The bottom half of his face is covered in dried blood. One time I accidentally tore one of my ex's piercings out when it got caught in the sheet. She cried and there was a lot of blood. Totally an accident, but a shitty one for sure. My girlfriend had her nipple piercing fall out when the ball unscrewed, and she asked me to try to get it back in, no matter the screaming. Nope. I was with a girl who had no emotion at all. No moaning. No heavy breathing. Nothing. She just kind of laid there staring at me. She wanted to be on top at one point, and I thought, oh, maybe she's just more into that. Nope. She just kind of sat there again, blankly staring at me. No movement at all. I asked her afterwards if everything was fine, and she went, holy shit, it was amazing. I was so ducking confused. Edit. To the people saying sexual abuse, maybe? I really don't know. This happened a few years after high school. She was the one that initiated fooling around, and was even the one that said you should get a condom. She seemed to have way more emotion during foreplay and appeared to be into it when she wasn't responding during sex. I did ask at one point if she wanted me to stop, to which she replied, duck no, you better not. The whole situation was bizarre. I honestly felt like I did something wrong for the next few days and felt guilty as hell. I asked her a few days later if she was okay and apologized if I made her uncomfortable. She was adamant she was okay and even said I may need that again sometime. I had no idea how to approach the topic of you laid there like a lifeless person. We didn't have sex again after that night. We are still friends and see each other regularly since she married one of my good friends. She never acted awkward or timid after we slept together. When she came, did she just give you a thumbs up or finger guns? I assume it was no movement and a disinterested HMM. Apostrophe. Myself and a good friend went through a stint where we had casual sex, mostly because we were bored and in college. Once while we were hooking up, she asked me to choke her, so naturally I obliged. Then she said harder, so I did. Then she said harder again, so I did. Turns out, she shouldn't have flown that close to the sun. Her eyes rolled back into her head, not the good way, and she went limp. Immediately I start freaking the duck out thinking I just killed this poor girl. She wakes up, after about 10 of the longest seconds of my life, in a full-blown panic attack. I got her calmed down and everything ended up alright. But I definitely thought I killed her, and I was definitely going to prison. We're still great friends, and laugh about it now. But I've still never gone soft that fast in my life. Very romantic jacuzzi tub setting with music and candles. She's sitting on top facing the same way as me, leans back to kiss me, and her hair catches fire from the candles behind us. Luckily it was put out quickly, but the smell and cleanup was the worst. Oh baby, you're on fire. Apostrophe. OMG, so are you. Apostrophe. No, seriously, you're on fire. Apostrophe. Edit. My most awarded comment, and it's about fire and sex. I'm not mad about that. My coworker and I both got wasted after the work holiday party and started hooking up. Right before we were gonna do the deed, I started having second thoughts, not knowing how to verbalize that in my altered state of mind. I just burst into tears. He probably thinks the sight of his dick made me cry. We are cool now, but he didn't look me in the eye for weeks. I went down. She came. She climbed on. She started sobbing. I'm still inside her. Her involuntary spasms from crying are getting me closer to the edge, while she's telling me that she's never gotten off with a guy before, and her boyfriend is gonna be so mad. She told me they broke up. I then had the least sexy orgasm ever because of the sobbing vibrations. Somehow the condom broke. Pregnancy scare. Ladies and gentlemen, my first time. So my ex and I, early/mid 20s, decided to have a quickie before work. Well, we were fighting the clock, so there wasn't much foreplay. He ducked me from behind on the bed. We finish and then all I hear is this horrified scream. I look and see blood all over the sheets. My immediate thought was, oh duck, that's a heavy and unexpected period. Then I see him holding his dick. Blood literally spurting through hands. Turns out he ripped his frenulum. Foreplay is important, friends. Slept for the first time with a guy I've been seeing for 2 months. He was done in under 2 minutes and wanted to go to sleep. I was like, okay, and turned sideways to face the wall. He spooned me and cupped my right breast from behind and said, this is how I sleep with my mom. And that's where I stopped scrolling. Good night, Reddit. Never change. Hooked up with my best friend's brother-in-law in my other friend's car during a birthday party. Bit my lip so hard that it bruised. took his pants off, and he revealed that he had a micropenis and erectile dysfunction, but still wanted to continue. After multiple failed attempts to get things going, he started having a deep conversation with me, who he just met about 2 hours prior, about how he was leaving for basic training in 2 days and was worried about dying in Afghanistan. Friend who loaned me the car ended up coming outside to tell us he needed it back to go for a beer run, and he saw me completely naked and this dude with his head in his hands drunkenly crying about how he felt like his recruitment officer lied to him about all the great things that joining the army would do for his life. Trying to get a boner while tripping balls on LSD. Only threesome I've ever been offered, and I was not even remotely horny. When he kept meowing at me during sex. I was with a guy who kept smelling my armpits, despite me telling him clearly that I wasn't into that, and who came in less than 10 seconds. Waking up on a friend's apostrophe couch to find that she pulled my underwear off and had put me inside of her. After pushing her off and a very uncomfortable conversation, I say that I don't do casual because I'm worried about STDs, and she snaps back that they aren't a big deal. You just take pills and they go away. She then admitted to having chlamydia. I really haven't been all that comfortable around others since then. I threw the condom over my shoulder in preparation for round 2 because I got a second wind. While I'm busy doing the deed, I hear an awful gagging / choking sound behind me. The cat was choking on the discarded condom. Semen and all. My girlfriend's mum bursts in the room thinking someone is dying. You can imagine how the rest plays out. GG. I once had a guy just from out of nowhere spit straight into my mouth. Like a big old wad of warm saliva. I had no problem swallowing his cum lol, but for some reason I found that just kind of disgusting. I guess the surprise factor didn't help. A guy that was so boring my mind wandered to the grocer's inward to buy the next morning. He was about 2 or 3 inches erect, approached sex and arousal like some basic task to chug through, and had more bush than dick. Said matter of fact while I gave him a BJ. Yeah, very good at this. Right amount of pressure. Thanks for the performance review. He considered this a good time. He stopped halfway through, wandered away and came back with a bowl of Rice Krispies. I married him. Edit. Whoa W, thanks for the awards and comments. I didn't really think I'd get more than a couple of upvotes. Exclamation mark. I was abused by a babysitter as a child, so I couldn't even get hard for my first BJ at 15. Girl dumped me the next day, and I'm sure told the story to a few people. Pretty embarrassing. Almost died giving a blowjob. This will probably get buried. Dated this guy with dick piercings. Blew him at a weird angle once because I didn't want to move his sleeping dog off the bed and the angle caused one of the piercings to lodge deep in my throat. I couldn't believe what was happening for a second of being stuck. Then completely panicked because I couldn't breathe while frantically tugging his dick. He was freaking out too, saying don't rip my dick. But I was more concerned with ick now. Not dying. It finally dislodged behind my tonsils after about 10 seconds. So I could breathe at least. But I was still stuck. We tried for another 5 to 10 minutes or so to get it out of my throat, but it hurt super bad and we couldn't. He suggested going to the hospital. I can't imagine waddling to the car naked with his dick in my mouth. Driving to the hospital and walking in like that. I'd rather die. I declined, and after another 10 minutes of trying we pulled it out and I coughed up a good amount of blood. We broke up shortly after for unrelated reasons, but I never blew him again. Edit. Thank you. Was not expecting this to blow up. Also wanted to add that afterwards. He said I'm really glad you didn't die. It would have been gross if they'd have to sever your head to get it off my dick. Sweet. Thanks for that mental image. Also had another bad blowjob now that I think of it. It was the first time I was blowing my now ex. Different guy. And when I went down I saw he only had one ball that was kinda fused to everything. No biggie. Just wasn't sure what I was looking at for a second. He noticed and our following exchange went like, him, oh, yeah. I was only born with one ball. Me, oh cool. Like Hitler. Him, I'm Jewish. Odd time for Hitler facts. And his response just put the nail on the coffin. I think I was trying to make him less self-conscious and that was the first thing I could think of that related, but I cringe every time I think about it. Was having sex with this lady I met. I was drunk. She wasn't. I asked if she was drunk. She said she wasn't. I laughed and then jokingly said, "Ah, so technically you're raping me. This is rape, yeah, no. You're a rapist now." No clue why I thought that would be funny. She then flipped out and went into a wild, crying, depressed episode. Turns out she had suffered sexual abuse years before and me calling her a rapist triggered something. I felt like such an asshole. Horrible memory. I apologized. But the damage was done. 2/10 won't recommend. My brother molested me as a child and I discovered in the most painful way how that kind of shit can still affect you years later. I now have vaginismus, a disorder that causes the muscles in the vaginal canal to clamp too tightly and not relax at all. It may sound nice for the partner, but I can't even have so much as a finger inside of me without feeling like I'm being torn apart. The only guy I tried to have sex with didn't understand this and tried to ram inside. I ended up screaming bloody murder and, out of pure instinct, bit into his chest to make him stop. He was bleeding at the foot of the bed. I was sobbing at the head of the bed, and that's what his mother walked in on. Said this elsewhere, but to keep it short, one night stand. Went to chick's place. Started getting hot and heavy. She said she was going to get ready. After 10-20ish minutes she came back wearing a full Barney the Dinosaur costume, at which point my brain blue screened on me. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.